What's up guys, Dom Tremboli here from Refinancer, and today we are going to go over one of the most common questions I get, and that is, what is an offset account, and more importantly, is it worth using? We're going to go over the answer to that, and I'm also going to talk about another alternative that may surprise you that it could actually be a little bit better. Let's get into the video. So, at first, what is an offset account? An offset account is essentially a savings account that is linked to your mortgage. So think of your mortgage account and an offset account as two separate things. Now, the point of the offset account is to reduce the amount of interest payable on your home loan. It's kind of like a savings account, but whereas a savings account you earn money on, the offset's like the flip, reduces the interest you pay. So the best way to understand this and really assess how good it is based on an example. Now let's say we have a $500,000 mortgage. Let's say the interest rate is 6%. Now over 12 months, you'll pay about $30,000 of interest on that. And that's through weekly, fortnightly, and monthly repayments. But the important thing is over 12 months, you will pay about $30,000 of interest. Now, let's say you get super lucky and come into $100,000. And the first thing you think to yourself is, all right, I've got some money, what do I do with it? Essentially, you've got two common options. Option one would be, do I put it in a savings account? Option number two, do I put it in an offset account? Now, the most important thing we're gonna understand is there's two reasons why an offset account, generally speaking, mostly will always be better. Now, the savings account you have, let's say it's 4.5%, whereas again, your offset account had an interest rate of 6%. So straight there, we can see that there's a 1.5% difference in the return. So when you look at it, if you put that $100,000 in a savings account, at 4.5%, that's $4,500 over the course of a year you would make from it. Now, if you put that $100,000 against your mortgage at 6%, that's $6,000 a year in interest you wouldn't pay. It's effectively $6,000 minus $4,500. You are $1,500 better off in that equation. Now, there's also a cherry on top that doesn't get discussed as much. The money that you have earned through interest in your savings account, you have to pay tax on that. Whereas the money you have saved on your home loan, if it's your owner occupied, there's no tax implications. So when you put that into a working example, let's say you were earning the average income of a home loan and you're paying 32.5% or so in tax. So that $4,500 that you made with that money in your savings account, well, you lose 32% of that or so. So that $4,500, that drops to $3,000. So when you factor in that that's another $1,500 you lost, you've actually made $1,500 just because the rate is better on the offset account versus your savings, but then you've made another $1,500 because you would have had to pay tax on your savings, but you don't. So in theory, you are $3,000 better off by using an offset account in this equation, which is crazy money. Just to think, it's set in, you've got $100,000, I'm gonna put it in door one or door two. Well, door one saves you $3,000 more, which is massive. Now, what are the downsides of an offset account? Because there are a few. Really, there's two to think of. Some offset accounts can have a fee. Generally speaking, it's gonna be $120 to $390 a year, a fee to have that account. As you can see, we've already demonstrated that $3,000 value, so the fee is not much compared to that value. You'll take that fee to have the account. Now, the other drawback can be that some offset account home loans have a slightly higher interest rate. Banks consider this a premium feature, so there might be a slight premium rate on it. I'm talking the difference between 6% to 6.1. That 10 basis points, it does add up, so you've got to consider that. But what if I told you that you don't have to have a fee and you don't have to have a higher interest rate, but still get the same functionality of an offset account? Welcome to the redraw account. This is effectively a very, very similar function. It does the same thing, but there's a few differences, and most would consider these differences a little bit of a negative. So a redraw account works a little differently. It's not a case of there's two accounts that you can clearly define. The redraw account operates within your home loan account. So if you had a home loan of $500,000 and you put $100,000 in it, the home loan account would actually show $100,000 as available and the loan is $400,000. Now the net effect is the same. You're still getting the interest savings. So it looks a little bit different. There's a little bit different functionality, but there are some common, let's say, negatives or things to be careful of. Now, flexibility is one. You may not be able to use this, you may not be able to take money in and out. There might be limitations on how much you can do it per month. But if you're someone that just wants to put money in there and maybe move it 2 or 3 times a month, you're not gonna have a problem. Realistically, you can do it a lot more, but it does depend from bank to bank. Now, what's a really cool way of getting the most out of a redraw function? And this is something I personally do, which I think is the way to go. If you have savings of, let's say, $50,000, you can put $47,000 against the redraw. And you think to yourself, well, that money's just staying there, I'm not using it all the time. And then the $3,000, you can put it in a conventional savings account, which is like your in and out account. This way, you're still getting functionality of the offset account, but you may not pay an annual fee and you may get a better home loan for doing so. It requires a little more management, but it does really squeeze the most bang for your buck. So in conclusion, is an offset account worth it? Absolutely, it's an incredible feature. Is a redraw account better than an offset account? From a dollar perspective, you generally will save more money. From a flexibility and maybe luxury point of view, there's a few downsides, but maybe you're someone that doesn't mind spending another $500 a year to get that offset account. Or maybe you're someone that just wants to maximize the dollar and you're pretty active in managing things, so you'll get away with it. Now, the other thing to consider too is when you have that $100,000, it really comes down to the concept of how can my money work best for me? And we've established that your money is working better for you generally in an offset or redraw account compared to a savings account. But if you're someone that, let's say, plays the stock market and you've got incredible confidence that you could make 10, 11% returns or something like that, well then maybe that's a better place for your money. And it can depend. It really just comes down to what is the return that I want and what is the risk that I have the appetite for. And for me, an offset account or redraw is low risk and the return is pretty good. So hopefully that gives you guys some insight. There's lots of videos on this stuff. I find them pretty complicated sometimes. Hopefully this is simple enough to understand. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and I hope this video provides you some value. Thanks a lot.